John Brennan. He is the man that President Obama has nominated to head the CIA. But what we already know about Brennan and what we're now learning should give some Americans pause. Is it true that John Brennan does not believe in absolute human rights? This is Full Disclosure. In his 1980 thesis at the University of Texas at Austin, John Brennan argued against the idea of absolute human rights. He also argued for censorship on the part of the Egyptian dictatorship, saying, quote, "Since the press can play such an influential role in determining the perception of the masses, I am in favor of some degree of government censorship," Brennan wrote. "Inflammatory articles can provoke mass opposition and possible violence, especially in developing political systems." Now, blogs have been running wild with that statement from 1980, and yet some could make the argument that Brennan has had a change of heart since then. After all, it was written a long time ago. But when you consider what Brennan has been up to as of late, it may stand to correlate to what was said in 1980. Brennan serves as President Obama's White House counterterrorism chief, but he's also the man who's in a very small circle helping to decide which nations, which areas should be targeted for drone strike. Brennan specifically is overseeing the use of lethal U.S. force outside war zones. He now has greater input earlier in the process than ever before, and he makes final recommendations to President Obama about who in specific should be targeted by drone strikes. So here is what Brennan himself has said about these powers. As a matter of international law, the United States is in an armed conflict with Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, and associated forces in response to the 9/11 attacks, and we may also use force consistent with our inherent right of national self-defense. The problem with what Brennan says there is, how do you correlate the two? That the United States is acting in its own national self-defense while conducting drone strikes on villages that are outside the theater of war, in nations like Somalia, Yemen, and Pakistan, where the United States isn't even at war. So what you need to know is that what John Brennan has said in the past is that there can be too much freedom. Combine that with his belief that the public can be swayed by the press, so the press should be controlled and censored to some extent by government, as well as his belief that the right to national self-defense means a small group of people in the White House deciding who can be targeted for assassination and who can't be. Maybe that makes him unqualified to run the Central Intelligence Agency or the CIA. On the other hand, some may say that makes him exactly the right man for the job. We'll let you decide. And that is Full Disclosure.